Hi, Brandon. Mr. Parrish here. Let's say a few things about the structure of the draft you have, and maybe some ideas that'll help you organize the final version of your paper. So first, your text right now is centered, so it looks like that once you center the title, you never go back and uncenter it. So that gives you that kind of jaggedy margins on both sides. So just be sure that you fix that for the final draft. Now, the big picture here is what I see happening at the end of the first paragraph and the beginning of the second paragraph really has to do with the positioning of your claim and then what this next paragraph is going to be about. So you end with the idea, this question, should a person's sexual orientation be discussed when casting? So what I'm really saying here is this is not the place to ask the question, this is the place to answer the question. Now, the answer to that question becomes the next sentence, but really putting that sentence here instead of here at the end of the first paragraph, this next paragraph becomes about all the many reasons for your claim. And to be honest, it starts out in maybe kind of in a different direction. All right, so here's what I would suggest you do. Clearly organize your first paragraph so that you end by making this claim: sexual orientation should not be discussed during an audition or when casting a role for many reasons. Make the next paragraph about, I guess, this topic: how actors' personal lives have nothing to do with an actor performs. And I think that may be a paragraph you want to develop more. And again, whether that's a kind of history of discrimination in the past, or whether actors' private lives influence because of audience attitudes or something about that. I mean, there may be a door opening to discuss that more fully. Why that is wrong, and of course it's wrong in many ways. It would be wrong in any job interview for any job, and there's no reason why that wouldn't apply to this particular field as well. You'll note that second person here is really, you're talking specifically about an actor or a performer, so replace the yous with the specific people. So halfway through that paragraph, you really switch to what I think would be a new paragraph where you get to sort of the opposing view about this. This is the idea, and I've heard this argument, been reading a lot about this argument in the last few months. Obviously you have too. It is in the news, where this sense of kind of, I guess, claiming this identity in these parts and the importance of it for the LGBTQ plus community, it is a complicator. But that's why I think it needs to be another paragraph. And whether it's the paragraph that occurs here or not, or perhaps it's more to the point, it might work better if this was the second paragraph. This argument that that has been made by actors, that a straight person has no right to play a person of the LGBTQ community. Maybe you begin with that argument because it seems to me your paper is really a response to that argument. And so this paragraph, which is really a lot about rights, might work better as a response to a paragraph that establishes this kind of like growing voice among actors for straight people to not get the roles for gay people. All right. So then you get to the next paragraph, which is the interview with Brad Bass. And of course, this is really impressive. I mean, it looks like you've gone to a lot of effort here to contact someone in the field. It's your own research. Very, very good. What the issue right now, though, is that it's a long paragraph that just seems to be his ideas. So my note there to introduce the topic before the source would be, for actors, who have worked, in the field for years, understand whatever point you want Bass to support. So right now, it's more, when I read the paragraph, I'm reading sort of his discussion, but it's not necessarily connected directly to the points you're trying to make. If he is supporting your claim that sexual orientation should have nothing to do with the casting, then introduce that idea or the point that he's going to amplify, and maybe his interview supports 2 paragraphs. Because right now it's not hard to follow what he's saying. But I'm not. I don't want to make the assumptions of where he is supporting you. All right, and then you get to that example of James Corden here, and I remember reading about this as well. It seems to be a very good example of the kind of blowback that is come. I wonder if, again, maybe this gets positioned earlier, back up at maybe toward the beginning, where you're fleshing out what that point of view that you're responding to is. If you think about it this way, if you wrote your paragraph and introduced this basic line here that a straight person has no right to play a person of the LGBTQ community. If that were your paragraph, it'd be a pretty short paragraph. But if it went on to this most recent controversy in this James Corden production, then I think you've established for a reader who is just casually aware of this idea really what's at stake. I think if I were going to suggest another area to look for reasons is their legal issues. I mean, this is I interview people all the time for part-time instructors, and I know I cannot ask questions like this or make hiring decisions based on these kinds of issues. So in that regard, I don't think it's very different in this field. I will say one thing about the communication with Bass, and it looks like you've also been in touch with someone named Anthony Galdi that I guess you're going to incorporate later. I'm not quite sure what these are. If they are one of these 2 things, and here's how you would cite it. If it's a personal interview, I would say a phone interview or something like that, then you simply would do it this way. Bass, Brad, period, personal interview, and then the date. That's all you need to include. If it's a email or a text message, I think they're both done the same way. You do it this way. This would be the subject line. What MLA says to include is sort of the title would be the subject line. So especially if it's an email, then you would include what the subject line is, because they kind of pull that from what's up here. I'm assuming that's where it might have come from. The received by Brandon Myers, and then the date. So if it's either one of these, then cite them using this format. If it's something else, if it is a text message, I think it's very similar to this. You have the name, text message, received by Brandon Myers, and then the date. So you would just replace personal interview with text message. All right, hope that helps. I look forward to reading the final paper. This is an interesting topic, and I appreciate students who pick interesting topics. All right, take care.